Welcome, traveler. Tonight, we begin at the very beginning. Chapter 1, My Tale. Let us unravel the shadows together. Where to begin? My tale. It is not one of heroism or redemption, but rather one of darkness, a plunge into the void from which I never returned. Long ago, before I became the Keeper, I was mortal, much like you, foolish, curious. My name then, my human name, was Elias. I was a scholar, obsessed with the forbidden. While others sought knowledge to enlighten, I sought knowledge to command, to control. There was one legend that gripped my soul tighter than any other, the Lantern of Eternal Sight. Said to be an artifact of immense power, it granted its bearer the ability to see beyond the veil, to peer into the worlds that lie just out of reach. It was said to illuminate truths too terrible for the living to comprehend. But it was no mere artifact, it was alive, and it was waiting for someone like me. The search for the lantern consumed me. Days blurred into nights as I pored over ancient tomes, followed cryptic maps, and chased whispers that led me ever closer to the edge of reason. My colleagues called me mad, their words dripping with pity and disdain. But I cared not. Madness, I believed, was the price of enlightenment. The journey to find it took me to a forgotten village, swallowed by fog and whispers. It was a place untouched by time, shrouded in superstition. The villagers warned me. Oh, how they warned me. Turn back, they said, or the lantern's light will consume you. They spoke of those who had sought it before me, their fates shrouded in mystery and terror. They called it a beacon for the damned, a doorway to the unholy. But I did not listen. My ambition drowned out their warnings. At the heart of the village, hidden beneath a crumbling mausoleum, I found it. The air inside was thick and cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and whispers of graves long forgotten. My breath was visible, curling in the dim light of my lantern, the mundane one I carried. There it was, resting atop an altar carved with symbols I dared not understand. The lantern. Its surface was black as night, but within, faint tendrils of green light swirled as if alive. It was beautiful. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, a surge of energy shot through me, a mixture of euphoria and dread. It was as if the lantern awoke. The room around me seemed to hold its breath. The flame inside roared to life, casting a sickly green light that danced along the walls. For a brief moment I felt powerful, invincible. But then the world around me shattered. The mausoleum crumbled into darkness, and I was no longer standing on solid ground. I was suspended in a void, surrounded by them. They were not human. Beings of shadow and despair. Their hollow eyes burned with a hunger that chilled me to my core. They stared back at me, unblinking, unrelenting. And then they began to move closer. Their whispers grew louder, their presence heavier, until it felt as though I would be crushed beneath the weight of their gaze. I realized too late. The lantern was not a tool for me to wield. I was the tool. And then, darkness. When I awoke, I was somewhere else. The lantern lay beside me, its flame still burning. But the world was different. The air was heavy, oppressive, and alive with whispers. The village was gone, replaced by a barren wasteland where shadows moved of their own accord. I stood on cracked earth beneath a sky that seemed perpetually on the verge of twilight. The horizon stretched endlessly, a realm of emptiness that felt suffocating. I tried to leave, to cast the lantern aside, but it would not let me go. Its whispers grew louder, more insistent. "You are chosen," it said. "You lit the flame. You will bear the burden. The burden. Oh, how I would come to understand that word. For with the lantern came a hunger for stories, but not the kind you know. No, it craved tales of fear, despair, and death, and it demanded that I collect them. I wandered aimlessly at first, carrying the lantern like a shackle. Time meant nothing in this place, and yet it weighed heavily on me. Days, perhaps years, passed in silence until the first soul appeared. A man, broken and bleeding, his eyes wild with terror. He fell to his knees before me, pleading for mercy. I remember the way his voice cracked, the way his breath hitched as he begged. And then the lantern spoke again. "Tell me his story," it commanded. I had no choice. The words spilled from my lips like a curse. I told of the man's betrayal, his sins, his desperate flight from those who sought vengeance. I spoke of the horrors he'd seen, the horrors he'd caused. With each word, the man's terror grew, his body trembling as the truth of his life unfolded before him. And then, the lantern fed. The green flame flared brighter, and the man, he vanished. Not dead, no, worse, forgotten, as though he had never existed at all. That was the first of many. My own tale was not spared. The lantern demanded it, tearing it from me piece by agonizing piece. My humanity, my memories, my very name, Elias, consumed by its insatiable hunger. As I wandered the void between worlds, I began to change. My body twisted, my flesh turned cold, and my name, Elias, faded from existence. I became Mortis the Keeper. But even in this cursed state, I clung to one shred of hope. Perhaps I thought, if I could gather enough tales, enough stories to satisfy the lantern's hunger, it might set me free. It was a fool's hope, but hope nonetheless. Oh, how naive I was. Thank you for venturing into the shadows with me today. If you crave more chilling tales, don't forget to subscribe and join our growing circle of the curious and the brave. Stay tuned, for the next story from Mortis the Keeper awaits, and it promises to be darker than the last. Until then, keep the lights on.